Thank you. Good morning. Okay, who's had fun so far and met a lot of people this week and this morning? Hands up if you're having a good time. Okay, excellent, good. So I'm going to talk about building the Invincible company because we have this thing that we call the turkey phenomenon, which is, oops, thank you. Great, if we can go a slide back. That's how it was supposed to be, good. I mean, the Swiss are not funny. When we try to be funny, then the slides don't play with us. Okay, turkey phenomena is when you end up like this. Okay, world looks good for a while, and you end up the wrong way. So basically, you can do something against it because there is a real problem with business models these days. They expire faster than ever before. And I say business models because it's even harder to compete on products and technology. If you take a company like GoPro, well, you know, everybody was hyping them, but their business model was crap, so it was very hard for them to defend themselves. What you really want to do is work a little bit more like Amazon, and you want to be sure that you don't end up like this and have to cut costs because you're under pressure from activist investors. Okay, so those who are invincible look more like this. And somehow I can't figure out this thing, which shows I'm completely incapable to use technology. But the reason Amazon can do this is because they put a system in place that allows them to continuously innovate. And there are very few companies that are good like this, and there are very few companies who have, geez, what's going on with these slides? Can we go back one, please? Let's see, okay. So very few companies have this type of leadership. Boom, okay, where the leader understands that you need to fail a lot, experiment a lot, the lean startup way, but on a large scale also, if you want to invent, if you want to come up with new stuff. And that doesn't exist in most companies. So we're going to look at how we can do this, and we're going to look at three things because we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to introduce you to this new concept that we call the business portfolio map. We're going to look at the new type of investment, and we had a corporate VC talking about this morning, the mindset of investment for our new idea portfolio. And the last one, how does the org chart look for the organization of the 21st century? Okay, so let's start with the first one. It seems that when I press once, it goes 2 slides further. I don't know. Well, we'll deal with that. If you're the CEO of an established organization like Larry Page, could also be a smaller one. So I thought the stuff we're coming up with is just for large organizations. Turns out that even at our size, Strategyzer, we can do this. But if you are in a large organization, geez, what's going on? Can we go one back? It's like magic. Okay. If you have a whole portfolio of businesses, then you need to give it some structure and you need to think it through. Now I press and nothing happens. Oh, this is weird. Okay, good. Maybe I should just click, one, advance. So what we're going to look at is this portfolio map that allows us to structure our thinking all the way from idea and lean startup to established businesses. Okay, so the big challenge that we have in organizations is that we have 2 sides. We need to improve our business, be lean in the traditional way, cut costs, and we need to invent new stuff. So basically that means we need a different focus on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. Here it's about growth, there it's about cost cutting. And that's okay, but they need to live together, right? The investment philosophy here is, well, we need to experiment a lot. We need a VC-style investment because 8 or 9 out of 10 things are going to fail. Over there, we have the stock market that invests in our traditional growth. Then we have culture and processes that are different. Over here it's iterative, lean startup-like. Over there, it's linear execution, detail-oriented. And it's fine to have these different cultures, but we need them under the same roof. And the last one is people skills. You have very different skills and capabilities over here and over here. However, it's a partnership we need to share with each other because sometimes people in the lean startup world need to actually draw on resources over there. So let's look at this business portfolio map and understand what it's for. So we're going to look at both types of portfolios, existing businesses and new ones. And basically we're going to look at 2 axes. One is here the profitability axe, typical in business, And then down here, we're going to look at the death risk of any business. So you can end up like that turkey. So if we look at these two sides, we have different types of portfolios, slightly similar axes. So let's zoom into the exploit portfolio first. So here, profitability. How profitable is our business? A lot of profit, it's up there. Not very profitable yet, or not anymore, down here. And over here, if we are Kodak, right, analog film, we're moving over here. If we are BlackBerry, we're moving over here, and then whoom, goes down the drain here, okay? So, let's look at the one silly example from public information. Actually, the risk axis, we had to make it up. You have established businesses up there from Procter & Gamble. You have some that might be a little bit smaller. And internally, they're probably looking at, which ones are actually prone to disruption over the next couple of years. Because there's a risk of disappearing, in particular in industries like this, okay? So it's not just about the technology industry. So basically, what we try to do as an established business or as a startup that has grown from 0 to 1,000 employees, you try to improve by creating more growth, but also by trying to create a sustainable business model. Think GoPro again. GoPro tried to create a better business model with moats around it, but they failed, which means they're now in a much more difficult position, so they're very likely to be disrupted, okay? So the movement is kind of like this. You start out when you're successful up there. That's not a startup, right? Established business, it's mature. But what inevitably happens is that your business model expires like a yogurt in the fridge, and you will move over here. It's natural, and it's faster and faster, so we have to do something against it. And even worse, what happens is some of those business models, they go down, and then we actually should kill them. And Rita McGrath, a scholar from Columbia, shows that the best businesses out there, they actually don't just invent new businesses, they also kill businesses. So sometimes you need to kill businesses. I had a friend, his job was to close businesses for a large corporation. What a weird job, right? It's the contrary of lean startup. Lean closure, okay. So, basically in an established portfolio, this is what you have. Mature businesses up there, business models at risk because they're expiring or because they're young, like a little plant, we want to move them up there, okay? So that's the established portfolio. And what you need on this side is an established management team, the typical stuff, CEO, COO, CFO, CTO, CMO, a lot of chiefs there, right? Okay, that's how you run an existing business. Now let's look at new portfolios. And here's the big challenge. Companies don't always look at the existing portfolio and the new portfolio at the same time. But after all, it's one company under one roof. So we're going to look at this explore part. So here we also have profitability, but it's the expected profitability. You start out as an internal startup. You have maybe a small market. Oh, that's not a good ideation. We need to move it up there. So you hope you can make money from that in a sustainable way, substantial way. If you're Nestle, anything under a $500 million business is not interesting, right? Then on the bottom axis, we have the death risk, which is all about testing. Here, we start out with an idea. We test it with our lean startup approach, right? And we move it over here. So ideally, you end up with a big potential business and you test the pieces one after the other. Viability, desirability, feasibility, okay? So typically, you would start out with some kind of ideation workshop. Hopefully when you start out, your idea is up there, not down here. Substantial business. Then you go out and test, and what do you realize? Bam, actually I was completely wrong. 90% of the market doesn't give a shit. So what do we try to do? In the testing and iteration, we kind of pivot over here. Hopefully we can make it even better. And if we have enough evidence that this could really be a good business, we bring it over to the execution portfolio. But remember, we need to treat it like a young plant that we can protect. Now, if we look at the management structure on this side, what if we had a chief entrepreneur? The person who's responsible in the company for inventing the future, okay? And the chief entrepreneur has a staff of chief portfolio manager, chief VC, and chief risk officer, right? Because these lean startup people, they do crazy stuff. We need a risk officer, right? And we have a staff of entrepreneurs, professional entrepreneurs in our company. So that gives us 2 different management structures for these 2 different portfolios. Let's look at this. It would be something like this. And this is just more to provoke the conversation. An executive chairman and 2 equally powerful people reporting to the board. The chief execution officer running the business, the chief entrepreneur inventing the future. And it needs to be a true partnership. So then people say, well, isn't that a power battle between the 2? Turns out in reality, it's more a power battle between the traditional CTO who's fighting for his or her life because they're afraid of the chief entrepreneur. Remember, it should be a partnership, okay? So, what you really want for this to work out and to build the bridges, because the innovators should not be pirates, because we kill pirates, and the executioners should not be seen as the old farts, because they actually finance the lean startup approaches. We need the chief diplomat, okay? We need the CIA, the chief internal ambassador, who connects the 2 and builds bridges, okay? Very important. So, if we look at this, we can always look at the big picture. And that's the point here. Innovation is not disconnected from execution. In the 20th century, you could compete like this and have nothing down here for a pretty long time because business models didn't expire. But in the 21st century, business models expire faster than ever before, and value propositions even faster. Don't even speak about technology. So the question is, how do we fill this gap up there? And that is the big challenge today for senior leadership teams to say, well, what's my portfolio over here? What's the pipeline? Because even if you're under pressure from activist investors, you can't cost cut yourself to future growth. You can raise the stock price, but you can't create future growth. Amazon is lean over there, but they are also really good at invention, okay? That's the approach of the future. So we need to build a portfolio down here of ideas. But what's the problem if I mapped out my ideas and they're all down here, maybe up there? It means they're very risky. We didn't test them yet, right? So what if we started to look at them in a different way and said, hey, this is our portfolio. Some of these ideas have huge potential, and we have the evidence that they could work. That's a real pipeline, okay? Not about idea competitions, but a pipeline of tested and validated ideas with great business models and real potential that can fill the pipeline. That's what we're trying to do, okay? That's what we're trying to do. Now, in order to be able to do that, we can't listen to the stock market and analysts or activist investors because they won't allow us to do that. What we need to have is a better approach to investment on this left-hand side. And for that, we need the chief portfolio manager and the chief venture capitalist. Why is that? Because the investment philosophy on the left-hand side is completely different than the investment philosophy on the right-hand side. Here's a statistic that shows the return of early-stage investments in the venture capital industry. Look at these numbers. 6 out of 10 investments lose money. Do we have that philosophy in companies today that we're okay with 6 out of 10 of our projects going belly up? I don't think so. But if we force everybody to succeed, we're not going to have the big home runs, okay? So the idea goes on here that you only have 1 out of 4 that actually make money, and you have a lot less that are real home runs. So you need a philosophy of experimentation, of failure, and being okay with that, because otherwise you can't get those big wins, okay? It's impossible to just pick the winner. That'd be nice, right? And here's where Amazon excels. And Jeff Bezos even says, at Amazon we invented a lot of things that customers don't care about. But they're okay with that because they know you need a lot of experimentation, you need to kill a lot of projects to get to that home run. Otherwise you can't do it, okay? So basically, we have this mix, this overall portfolio that will help us understand, are we ready for the future? Any company who has this becomes invincible. Any company who has little to show on this side will become a disposable company in the 21st century. So, what is your approach to portfolio management in your large established corporation and even in a startup that is beyond the beginning phase? Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you learned something.